Welcome to another recording of What the Fuck Cyber. And I'm just using the full name constantly now, not WTF Cyber. If you are by any way, shape, or form triggered by any kind of wording or phraseology, now is the time to skip to another channel. Sorry, people, but it is what it is. There he goes. But for this episode, I would like to introduce Mr. Paul Charles from Forward Rolls. Paul, introduce yourself. What are you about?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Alex. Obviously, my name's Paul Charles. I work for Forward Roll. I think you've already introduced pretty much everything. I also run the cyber community on Discord called Cyber Jobs Hunting, and we've got 12,000 members now, so not too shabby.
Wow.
Don't know half of them. It could just be my mum's created 6,000 accounts just to support me.
Bots.
But you never know.
She's made bots, mate. That's it.
Yeah, to be honest, I doubt it because she doesn't know how to use a phone. So, yeah, we're probably safe on that department. I've been doing mainly pen test recruitment, I'd say, for about 6-7 years. I've covered everything from public sector to private sector, contracting and permanent solutions. I've placed whole teams. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome.
All the boring stuff.
So let's kick off by just touching on a bit of a trend that I've seen in the space over the last couple of months. And I've spoken to quite a few people about this. And so I've been on a bit of a journey. Most people will know I've been on a bit of a journey over the last couple of years, networking heavily on LinkedIn. And I do genuinely like to connect and talk to people on LinkedIn. I don't want to just connect and leave it. You know what I mean? I want to know who's in my network, if I can help, if they can help me. It's all about who you know, not what you know scenario. And I run with that constantly. But over the last 3 months, there's been a huge upsurge of CISOs. Whether that's been a couple of organizations that have made redundancies or larger firms that have shed excess fat as they do, if the states are owning them, they usually shed by losing staff first. But what are you seeing from the trend at the moment in the industry?
Do you mean in terms of like the people looking for work? Is that what you were getting?
Yeah. And then obviously off the flip of that, what do you think about the recruitment side of things? Is it still buoyant? Is there still lots of jobs out there? What's maybe stopping people from getting these jobs? I don't know, just like kind of that flavor.
And I'd say I'm meeting a lot of clients at the moment. Obviously, end of the year, usually do like a wrap up. This is how the year's been. This is what we're looking forward to next year, sort of thing. I think we can all safely agree that 2023 has been shit. Big tech layoffs in the beginning of the year, and they just kept coming, and that obviously had an impact on security. It's going to. If you lay off all your devs and you're not building another platform, then you don't need to secure it because it's not existent. It can be non-existent. So it did have a massive knock-on effect. Several companies have gone under, just folded completely. That you might not expect to have that happen to them. So this year's been crap. For want of a better word, it's been terrible. It's starting to turn around, dare I say, touch wood, carries on turning around. So meeting a lot of clients, like 2023 is behind us. Some of them laid people off, some of them put off hiring because they weren't sure. But now I think next year that's going to reverse and we'll see a lot more. It's already started reversing, to be honest. We're starting to get our order books full up again,
Yeah.
Is that to do anything.
You say that the order books are filling up. Is that from organizations looking to recruit CISOs, IT managers?
So the type of position that we're seeing at the moment isn't CISO. Sort of September, October, it was a lot of sales roles.
Yeah. That's because they're trying to ramp up for Christmas numbers.
Yeah, trying to get in before Black Friday and all that to get all the
yeah,
retail companies, which actually this is this week. So
yeah,
hopefully anyone who runs a cyber business has lots of won't be watching the podcast because they'll be too busy securing everything for cyber
no, they've got to
Monday and Black
specifically be
Friday.
watching the podcast so that they know what to do because of Black Friday.
But yeah, it was sales. Then we're starting to see an uptick in tech, which is normal because those salespeople have started, and yeah, a couple of months in, starting to actually do some sales. So once the projects come in, what do you do? Well, we've got too much pen test work now. Let's get a couple of pen testers in.
Yeah.
On the CISO front, it's a bit different. So, I mean, CISO is a completely different role to coalface, pen testing, SOC analyst, whatever it is you work for the techie roles.
Yeah.
A CISO is a completely different animal in reality. It's much more business focused. What I'm starting to see sometimes is the business, they might hire someone like the CTO, for example, or they might already have a CTO, and the CTO will just say, oh, I'll take charge of all security. We don't need a CISO.
Yeah. Yeah.
And suddenly that job's surplus to requirement. I've seen that happen a couple of times. Other companies are just maybe not caring as much because budgets have been tightened across the board, and security is an easy one to axe when we haven't been hacked, have we? So
this was something that I've recently, and I say recently, like even just today, spoken to somebody about that same sort of thing. The company that he was at made him redundant a few months ago, and the reason being was that they needed to save £500,000. Like, and overnight you can do that by axing C-suite or certain people from in there, and he still had a team that he'd built up and developed and all that kind of stuff. Now, who's leading that team? That was the question I put to him, and he's like, well, all they did was they transferred all my responsibilities and split it between IT and operations.
Yep.
And it's like, well, yeah, but that I see is the thing as well. It's where they're the pyramid has a missing top on it.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got people that are further and further down the food chain doing more and more and more, having more responsibility. What's the word? Having more responsibility,
more for it.
Not getting paid more for it. And not just that, but they've got the responsibility, they've got the accountability, but they don't have the funds to change anything. Or the what was the word my old man used to use? The like the ability to make the decision. You still got to go to your CEO and get him to sign it off. You can't make that decision. The decision making capability is taken away from you, but you're still accountable and you're still responsible for making sure that the company's secure. Yeah, I think it's potentially.
I know an old school version, but it's not very PC anymore, so I can't really say it. But it's
you could say
money, accountability, and need. In recruitment, we call that, and they're taking away the money from a lot of them, so they still have the accountability and the need, but they got no money. So what can you do?
Yeah, no, it is crazy. It's crazy. But so what's the future hold for recruitment, do you reckon? I mean, again, I think there's more people coming. Let me ask this a different way. Skills gap. Let's go there, right? Because a recruitment organization should be aligned with organizations that are looking for staff and should therefore be going, right, well, this is where you want to strategically maybe be in the next 10 years. You want to get some juniors on board now, maybe one or two. You need your seniors to be able to do the main job. Get some of these little guys in to bring them up the ladder. Skills gap. What do you think? Does it exist? Is it a misnomer? What's the crack?
It doesn't. So
that's sitting on the fence, mate. Come on, pick a side. Goddamn.
Let me explain. So depends on where you are in the vertical on the market, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a junior, skills gap does not exist because, I mean, tomorrow, let's say you were hiring for a junior, whatever, pen tester, SOC, GRC, doesn't matter. You just go on LinkedIn and you'd say, I want a junior. Here's
Yep.
a junior wage. Come work for me. You'll get 500 applicants
Yep.
within the day, maybe even within the hour, depending
Yeah.
on how well you're connected. So there's no skills gap there.
Yeah.
But when you get to, this is like a year plus, between a year and say 10 years, that sweet spot.
Yeah.
No one can find anyone for those jobs. That's when they come to me. That's where I make all my money, is because I know people within that gap who are looking for work, and I can move them. But yeah, a year to 10 years, no one can find anyone. And then after, when you start getting to management level, not so much senior techies, although sometimes they do get priced out of the market, but that's a different thing. But like CISOs and all of that sort of side of things, it sort of dives off again. So it's no longer a skill shortage. There's a surplus of CISOs, as we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
There is a skill shortage, but it's only in a particular area on the verticals. Those with experience, you don't need to train, and you don't also cost tons of money, like the CISOs would ask for 150, 150K. Senior pen tester would cost half that.
So the skills shortage exists between, and I would venture a guess it's probably not 1 to 10 years, because 10 years is I think that's quite a big gap. I'd say it's maybe 1 to 5.
Finger in the air, sort of. Yeah, 1 to 5.
Yeah. But we've been talking about the skills gap now for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'd say it's been 3 years. I wouldn't say it's any longer than that. About 3 years, right? So, okay, there's a skills gap for people that we haven't got that are over a year, less than 10, that we have in this pool, right? If we'd have decided to tackle that 3 years ago and started drip feeding in 1 year junior news grad students, blah blah blah, the skills gap would have gone away. We'd be 3 years into that now. We'd have 3 years into that with a plan, a strategy nationally that said, right, we're going to bring in this many juniors to our business. This is how many people we're developing currently. We have this many seniors, and that whole demographic would just keep moving up.
Yeah, but you've got to follow the money though. So you need your company to train them. What happens if they all leave after a year? Got to train another group, and they're all going trained to another your competitor maybe, who will offer more money. This is why they don't. There's not really any good training things, because do you want to put money down? Because it'll cost money to train them. You'll probably have to pay them a salary, even if it's a junior wage. You're paying a salary, you're paying NI, you're paying all the taxes that go with it. So it's a chunk of change. And then we're not even talking about tech, laptops, phones, software licenses. It's a lot of money before you've even had them doing any work. So that's probably why you're not seeing those sort of programs as commonly, or as often as you might like, because what happens if they leave?
I agree with that, and I think that when you sort of start saying follow the money, again, organizations want a pen tester who can start today and start testing tomorrow, and run with it, easy peasy, just like that. It's a commercial interest. You are an employee, they're selling your ass. It's as easy as that, right? You're pimped out for the highest price. End of. When you said about, it's an investment for an organization because they've got to train somebody up, and after a year they might leave. And again, you probably know this better than I would, being in recruitment. Is it illegal rather than is there illegal? Is it illegal to actually contract somebody and say, well, actually, we want you to, if you're going to come on board with us, we want you to work for us for a minimum of 3 years. And you have to, otherwise there's training and stuff like that will provide you, and you will have to repay us that bill for the full value.
You can do the reimbursement if there is a monetary value. You can't force someone to work for you if they don't want to.
Yeah, I suppose that's proper slavery and proper. Yeah. Okay, that wouldn't work.
You can't force someone to work for you, but you can say, I've seen it happen before, where it's like, for example, we'll train you and we'll get you to pass X exam. Let's say CREST CRT,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
We will do the training. You will pass CREST CRT. We'll pay for it all.
Yeah.
But it's quite common to have the contract. If you leave within 12 months of passing the exam, you have to reimburse us. That's quite common.
You know,
And
I
what
have
you'll
seen that.
find-
I have
What
seen
you'll
that.
find as well is, as I've had it before with other candidates, is they'll go to the new job offer and say, well, I'm now £1,000 out of pocket or however much it is because I have to reimburse it. And often the employer will just go, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the next business's pocket basically. And then they might often say, well, then you've got to stay here for 6 months. You know?
But that again doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem, does it? It's still an ongoing issue with the skills gap and the reason why people are reluctant to do that training. You know, it's not enough of a deterrent to stop somebody looking for another job once you've been trained up and going to the competition. And as well, we can't say in the industry you're not allowed working for any of our competition because then you're preventing somebody from the right to earn and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a funny one. There's lots of things you can and you can't do. You know, you can't obviously discriminate and all that, and you can't force someone to work for you. And the other thing, we look at references, for example. So let's say, Alex, I got you a job at X company, and I went back to where you're working now, and I say, well, I need a reference for Alex. Legally, you can't give a bad reference.
Yeah, but you can withhold.
You can withhold,
Yeah, I've seen that happen as well. Yeah.
Things like that. You can't badmouth someone just because. I mean, people do it, but not officially. Like if they were really bad, I just want to warn you about. X, but it's off the record.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no evidence of it having that conversation. No way. What about leveraging more of the apprenticeship schemes, do you think?
I've seen people try it, but I've not seen them do. I've seen them try it, but I've not seen them like finish it or succeed. Not so much in technical roles. I've seen it work in sales of all places.
So I've got a couple of mates of mine who, one of them works for QA, and they're doing a lot around trying to get people in on apprenticeships to get a bachelor's, for example, in cyber or something like that. And you going into work and working your way up into that. And they're not what I would have thought were apprenticeship wages either. They're quite standard normal wage rates. Do you know what I mean? Which is fantastic. And then I've got another mate of mine who runs his apprenticeship scheme. He takes on like one junior a year or so, and they put them through Firebrand. Not that I'm dropping names for businesses, but those are two of the guys that are out there that are quite well known for providing training in the industry. Good, bad, and indifferent. I'm none the wiser. I haven't done my training with them myself. But they're just two brands that I'm aware of that do those kind of apprenticeship schemes where, again, it's not like your typical apprentice scheme for somebody who's like left school, where it's half minimum wage. Really, really horrible. You know, you can't live on that kind of money kind of apprenticeship.
You have to live with your mum and dad still,
Oh yeah, and subsidized by something else as well in the meantime as well, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe more organizations need to sign up to apprenticeship schemes.
Maybe. I think the issue you have sometimes though is, can we put these guys to work straight away? Because even as an apprentice, I know you do get money from the government to do it, but there's going to be some you've got to pay yourself at some point. A lot of these, if you look at consultancies, probably a good example, they operate on quite small margins sometimes.
Which consultancy is that? Because that's not always inside trading, inside information.
Some of them do. They'll plead poverty a lot of the time.
Yeah, they plead it whilst driving around in their Range Rover.
Yeah. Tell me about when I'm doing my rates negotiation for recruitment. Tell me about it. Pouring me from this Ferrari. Yeah. Oh, it'd be expensive. But I think they do look at the margins though a lot. Talk to a lot of them. It's like, what's the profit? You know?
Yeah.
And when you've got a junior, there's no profit there.
No.
They don't. And a lot of the consultancies are very profit driven because you
Yeah.
have to be.
That's business. That's business, though. That's
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And in early, was it maybe 2021, I think it might have been, I did a full recon of all the business resilience centers across the UK to see if we could partner up with them at the place I was working at the time. And the business resilience centers are, I mean, they're kind of, they've got like a pre-grad scheme almost, where they're trying to utilize the existing student base that they've got to provide testing services at a very, very cheap rate to businesses that need it, who have never done testing, small businesses, right? That wouldn't be able to afford a standard pen test from one of the normal consultancies that are out there. But maybe someone more like those guys actually, as much as they are competition for business, maybe they're the incubator. Maybe they're the ones that should be getting these guys into a 2 or 3 year scheme as an apprentice kind of thing, building up that front end where literally as somebody's going out the door, somebody else is coming in the door, that kind of scheme.
Yeah.
And populating the industry.
Yeah. And the other challenge is also that there's a lot of people coming straight out of uni. There's an argument to be had here. There's two sides to this. Leave uni, go straight into a pen test role, or straight into something. And there's a lot of people who are against that, but maybe because in the past they had to struggle. You know, Dave, who's like 45. He's been doing it for 15 years, or when he was doing it, he had to be a developer for 5 years, and then he had to pass the exam and do. Not picking on any Daves, by the way. That's just the name.
The generic name we've chosen for today's episode.
Put it down, put it down. I don't care. But and because of that, they see juniors, leaving uni, go straight into pen testing.
Yeah.
And you've probably seen the memes where it's like, how do they get to do that jump without learning about sysadmin or something like that? That's another reason why I see juniors struggle to get in, is because we want to have someone with a sysadmin background. We've done it for a couple of years. Not every company like that, but there is more than one.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one, because with a sysadmin job, let's just say every company in the UK wanted a sysadmin all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
That's one role. That's one role per company. But pen testing, you've usually got a bank of these individuals. And I would dare say that there's still a lot more, because pen testing and cyber these days is what like graphic design was back in the early 2000s, where every student and their dog has kind of gone, oh, that's the next best thing. I'm going for that because it's the one that's going to make us money, and rah, 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 rah. Advertising agencies for digital marketers was rife in the early 2000s. And I think we've just got a massive swathe of people who personally, and this is my personal opinion, so don't shoot me down, anybody else out there, but personal opinion is that the curriculum is very much lacking for a lot of these students. They don't teach up-to-date stuff, and there's not only a skills gap, but then there's a learning. I mean, skills, learning, same thing, but there's a reality. There's an education level, then there's reality, and then there's a skills gap.
If you go to uni and you want to be a pen tester, let's say, most courses will do a module on pen testing. So you're there for 3 years, you've done one module. And you've done nothing outside of that.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. How does that work?
It doesn't. you're not going to get a job.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's, you know, we talk about employers changing up the skills gap. Maybe it's the
It
universities. Maybe
starts
it's
with
the
education. That's
yeah.
the grassroots of everything, you know.
I
You
mean,
could even start before uni. It's just start in schools.
and I think they're doing a lot more in schools these days. You know, there's a lot of people that I'm talking to, but again, that's very generalist, like tip of the iceberg information. I think universities, you should delve deeper into your specific things. So if you want cybersecurity, broad spectrum, fine. Let's do cyber. Now you get to the end of your second year, end of your third year. Maybe they extend these to now being a 4-year course or something like that. But you get to the end of your third year, particularly, and you go, right, now what do you want to specialize in? Because at this point, you're going to know you want to be a pen tester, you want to be an analyst, you want to be a forensics, whatever like that. And you go, right, cool. The last year is intense, specific, only that. Good luck. Do you know what I mean? That I think that would work, because then and it's in and maybe even you say the last 6 months isn't a job related to, so that you're getting the actual real world experience or something. I mean, I don't know about that bit, but that would be amazing.
Sort of apprenticeship with the university.
Yeah. And you'd have all of a sudden a load of people that weren't coming out of university needing to be upskilled to what's happening today in the marketplace, using the right tools and the right and you know, not trying to figure out how to break into a network full of NT machines or Windows 7 machines, you know, because that's what they're currently kind of working on. You know, it's the real world, and I think that would make the difference.
Yeah, and also teach them how to write a CV and do an interview. That's a different topic.
Yeah, yes, it is.
I think the 3 things I identified with juniors leaving university in particular, they don't know how to write a CV. They don't know how to interview, so they might know the answer to the question they've been asked, but they don't know how to phrase it properly in English. They don't know how to network with people who are not their peers. So I'm talking about senior leadership in industry, not your classmates you've been with for the last 3 years.
Yep.
They're the 3 areas you struggle with.
And presentability as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of, I suppose when I was at school, and I'm going to go out on a limb that I'm a little bit older than you. You know, props to you for your age. Make you feel good for the rest of the afternoon. But you know, when I went to school, that was like in English lessons. You were teaching reading, writing, and all that kind of stuff. And at a certain level, as you were leaving school, you were taught about how to build a CV. And you even did, I remember doing mock interview things in class, you know, with you. I mean, that's even worse, because then you've got your schoolmates all there having a pop at you as well at the end of the lesson. You know, you don't get much more intense, heated interview scenario than from your peers at school, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So man, they need to bring that back, I think. Yeah, taking the mick out of you because you've actually gone out and put a shirt and tie on because you're going for an interview, so you've got to look right. You know, the proper role play, not just turning up in your gym shoes.
Strangling you with your own tie.
You had it too.
No, I was the one strangling someone. They were good days. Don't bully kids, it's wrong.
I think that there's a lot here that we could talk about this for hours. I feel that, but there's a lot that we need to change as an institute, as an industry, as education bodies, and all that. You know, there's a lot,
and it's not going to come from business leaders by themselves. I think everyone throws it at business leaders. It's not going to be them that ultimately. I mean, they'll help, and most of them want to.
It's community wide. It's everybody. It's from the grassroots up. Everything needs to be reevaluated, because I think, again, a lot of people that have gone into education to teach over the years, I think, I don't know if things have changed or it's got harder, if it's got worse, or if the kids' attitudes have changed or whatever the curriculums have got easier. I don't think they've got harder. I think they've got easier because it's all pandered towards those that aren't passing rather than making it more difficult. And it just needs a whole upheaval. But I've got a 13-year-old, so I can say that kind of stuff right now.
Needs a new government, really. Yeah.
Oh, let's not get onto the politics, mate. Let's put that soapbox away. Fucking hell. However, let's just talk about this from a global scale now as well, because man's leaving us.
Yeah, going somewhere sunny, not like the UK.
Yeah.
So I'll be relocating to Australia next year.
That's super
still doing cyber recruitment, not disappearing entirely.
So what's the market like out there? I mean, you obviously, I mean, we've spoken, and I know you've got somewhere and all that kind of stuff. But I've got some mates of mine that live out in Oz. Personally, I think they're about 5 years behind, which isn't really that far in the grand scheme of things. But what's the market space like? Yeah.
Who are on our doorstep? Yeah, I mean, they are a little bit behind generally. The market, I'd say, is probably booming more than it is in the UK, but they have their little quirks. It's harder for a junior to find work.
Really?
From what I've been told, it's much harder.
Is that just because the market space isn't as mature?
Yeah. Some of it's down to lack of maturity. Some of it's down to, it used to be very easy to get a visa. So for a Brit, so they just hire, because wages are better. They just say, "Well, Dave, do you want to come work in Australia?" And
Dave again?
Like, yeah.
Jesus, Dave.
Dave's been everywhere. They go to Australia on a visa, all paid for. So you've got the ability to outsource, a bit like nurses in the UK. You could just they do that. They go overseas and get visas very easily. It's the same in cyber. So there's not so much of a junior market as if you're a young Australian looking to break into the sector. But once you've got experience, it seems to be everyone wants you more than in the UK. So looking at, they're going to create about a similar amount of jobs that they're going to create in the UK next year, like industry wide.
Yeah.
But they have a third of the population.
Wow. So I think that's maybe the difference as well, in that, I mean, again, if they're making the same amount of jobs available next year, but a third of the population, when I come back to what I was saying before about how CISOs at this point in time, not taking consideration personal views and the fact that these guys are very hardworking, whatever like that, but they're 10 a penny at the moment. There's so many out there. It's thick with CISOs. Whereas somewhere like Australia, you're not going to have that level of competition.
No. So if you put it like this, every major telecoms firm pretty much in Australia was breached this year.
Really?
Yeah. They're basically on the front line. If there is like a trench, the cyber war happening, if you can visualize it as trenches, like US, the West on one side, and China and the Russia and all that on one side. So we're probably on the front line between Russia and the US and the UK, because geographically we're closer. The Russians hate us more. Which is one of the reasons why we've got a half decent cybersecurity industry, in fairness, because we're being attacked all the time. We know it, and people put defenses up. Australia is in a similar position, but it's with China. A lot of these, a lot of the breaches happened were Chinese sponsored, hackers. So they're on the front line, if you want to visualize it. And obviously China have got a bit more clout than Russia in terms of money. They can finance a lot more teams.
I'd say they're probably a little bit more tech savvy as well, maybe.
Same as us.
Say not tech savvy, but maybe like they've got the cutting edge technology. I mean,
you mean in China?
Yeah, I mean, if you're buying tech, it's usually made in China. you know what I mean? So yeah, they're more at that front end, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah, Australia is definitely in big sights, big target on its back, I suppose, because again, with it being former colony, it's probably got a lot of ties back to England and the UK as a secondary
lot
point
of
of base, and
similarities. Yeah.
but a lot of communication channels and you know, like
Five
when we talk
Eyes.
supply chain and branch offices and all that kind of stuff, you know.
There's the Five Eyes Alliance for good geopolitics. Australia have a massive listening post out in the middle of the desert called Pine Gap, which is right with, you know, MI6 and CIA are both there. NSA probably too. They're a huge part of the global supply chain for Five Eyes. And then you've got, obviously, it was a colony many moons ago. It was fully independent now. But they do still have quite British ways of doing things. Like they have the CREST standard, which is one of the few countries that have adopted CREST outside of the UK.
Oh, really?
So if you have CRT, there's companies in Australia that would know exactly what that is, but not so much in America.
I didn't realize they had CREST over in Australia.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Big down on that. They've still got some British. Then the only other countries that have CREST is in a big way ish. Singapore and Hong Kong was a little bit, but I think they've.
Again, they're ex-colonies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Interesting. It was like in India. I wonder if CREST is in India. I don't think they're in South
more
Africa.
OSCP there. Yeah. Didn't make it there, but yeah, there's a lot going on. That's quite broadly, if you look at it from an outsider's perspective, it does look quite similar. Job titles are similar. They're using similar tech. Just the weather's a bit nicer, so they may be a bit more positive on.
Yeah, general life outcome is a little bit better. Having lived out there myself, yeah.
They don't have
have to back that
D
one.
deficiency like we do.
No.
Which is linked to depression. So there you go.
However, the humidity out there is something else. So do be prepared. But that's amazing, and you know, again, good luck to you out in Australia. Mate, you will be missed from over here, and do keep in touch with us.
Obviously, you'll be able to contact my colleagues here at Forward Roll if you do need a job in the UK.
Yes.
Don't contact me because I will be useless to you.
Yeah, and that's something very. I mean, again, you know, not to plug any particular company, but obviously Forward Roll as a recruitment agency, it's not just Paul Charles sat on his own in his living room and now he's going to Australia and starting up Forward Rolls Australia. It's a proper legitimate company with employees that are still there and still happy to help and service any of your client requirements as they are.
Yes, exactly. There's about 46 of us, I think, the last count. So.
Oh wow. Oh, so it's not a small firm by any means.
No. We're not a one-man or two-man band. If you look at the amount of agencies in the UK, 46,000 agencies in the UK, and only 6,000 recruitment agencies have more than 3 people in it.
Amazing.
It's a very minute number if you look at it like that.
Mad. But listen, it's been phenomenal having you on the channel. But anybody who has made it this far, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. But you know, it's there. Please feel free to follow Paul if you are over in Australia and follow this channel because you know, you will be able to help you out, no doubt. But again, thank you very much, Paul, for coming on today. And good, no, absolute pleasure, mate, absolute pleasure. And good luck with your ventures going forward.
Yeah, I'll see you when you're on holiday.
Oh, mate, you know I'm knocking on the door. I'm there. You'll hate saying that now. You'll regret it. But thank you very much, mate. And I'll speak to you again soon.
As you said, cheers.